They roll coverage.
What is up, Carolina Panthers fans? It is your boy Nick, and of course we're getting ready for this next week. Dave Canales just recently put out a press conference, so of course I'm breaking it down, but I'm giving you the new format. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Now, I honestly am thinking going into this game that we have a lot to prove. The defense needs to get pressure because for the first time in I don't even know how long, the Atlanta Falcons can actually generate a pass rush. And especially against a now hurt offensive line. You know, we do have Austin Corbett and Robert Hunt on IR. There's a lot of questions. And I need the tempo setter of this team, a.k.a. our guy, Dave Canales, shout out. Time for some accountability. Time for some fixing of this offense as well. To be honest, they have really struggled alongside the defense. But hey, we did see a little bit of a bright spot in 3 touchdowns from Bryce Young after those 2 horrible turnovers, interception and a fumble in the Cardinals game. This Falcons team is going to give us a lot more pushback. So, hey, let's just go see what Dave Canales said going into this week.
All right, great to be back on the grass, getting prepared for the Falcons coming in here. And I just always love getting back to Wednesdays, you know, the work that goes into it, the focus of the guys, being able to work together. And, you know, that's what always just brings us back. It's the work, you know, it's the preparation and having the discipline to continue to build this team and work together and communicate.
You know what, Dave? That's actually a good answer. Communication's going to be a focal point moving forward. We heard the rumblings of Bryce Young and Austin Corbett not being on the same page, of play calls coming in late, and us not being able to execute plays on the field. We're literally getting up to the offensive line, getting everybody out, and pretty much having to snap the ball. Apparently, that was a disconnect between the center and the quarterback. Now, with Cade Mason, the backup center, now that Austin Corbett's on IR, and of course Robert Hunt on IR, which we're bringing in Chandler Zavala to fill that void, now Bryce Young has the opportunity to show us who he is as a quarterback. We heard from Dave Canales yesterday that he was a rhythm quarterback, that at times he has to move out of the way because he truly does not have the size. And again, that's not me criticizing him. That's the coach. In fact, here's the clip from yesterday.
Are there times because of his size, it might be a hindrance to him being able to see what's in front of him and being able to get rid of the ball? How do you think that affects him at all?
Yeah, it certainly affects shorter quarterbacks. You know, sometimes you can't see. Sometimes you move for vision. You know, there are ways that you learn how to play football. And I've been around a couple of guys who are at or around or just under 6 feet. And so those do present challenges. But I thought Bryce did a good job playing rhythmic football yesterday.
So again, it's not me saying that he needs to move around to do that. Obviously, we see why he rolls out and goes left and right and sometimes walks into some sacks. But you know what? This offensive line was a massive strength last year. We all love the offensive line. That's how a guy like Chuba Hubbard was able to eat, absolutely eat. And that's exactly why when an ESPN article came out before the season started, where it ranked our running back room as the 28th best running back room in football, the fan base lost their mind because they're still remembering that offensive line from last year. And again, I hate to say it, but I told you guys the offensive line was going to have issues. We had issues back in June and July, and they've continued to happen. We even lost backups like Jatir Carter to injury. This offensive line was not prepared for this year just from a health standpoint. When it comes to absolutely everything else, this offensive line was ready to roll. To be honest, they looked half decent, but they have to now adjust. Obviously, a lot of those guys had to adjust on the field because they were literally injured. But I mean, we have to literally adjust the entire scheme now. Everything's going to change. And on that note, this is Dave talking about the offensive line, the changes, and of course, how it's going to affect the run game moving forward.
Yeah, I thought the Cardinals did a really good job. Just, you know, when we were in our base plan and some of our base runs, they played it well. You know, we got a couple of yards out of it. You know, and I think, you know, after that with the turnovers and then going in 20-3 into the half, we're in a different mode. And so to me, I believe in the run game. I believe the runs they start to add more and more the further into the game that you get to. So I would love to get our team to play in that style of football that we're used to, that balanced complementary football of defense and offense, where we can run the ball, be balanced, throw play actions, get into our dropbacks and quicks and empties, like we have. I want to see that mix come alive. So certainly not where we want to be right now. But it's something that if we can just start off with execution, we can start off with playing normal football, we'll see that part come alive.
And obviously, we want this team to be balanced. So, yes, I want to run the ball. But we're only going to be able to run the ball against the Atlanta Falcons if we do one of two things, okay? Number one, we take the ball away. We do what we did last week, execute those tip drills, clog up those passing lanes, make sure the balls are getting into the air on the defensive side, and making sure that we are coming down with them. I think that's possible. But if that's the case, we're going to have to play a lot of zone, and we're going to have to do a lot of zone blitzing. If that's the case, we're going to have to see a lot of Princely Uman-Mielen, Nick Scorton, anybody else, literally. I thought Pat Jones looked fine. I thought some of the other guys looked fine. Wanham had the sack. That's great. Lathan Ransom needs to be out there, though. I don't need to see Nick Scott. There are some adjustments that needs to happen on this defensive side of the ball to keep us in the game. I say that knowing full well what number 2 is. Number 2 is this offense needs to be able to produce. And I mean produce by staying on the field. We need to limit the 3 and outs. I need to build long-term drives. I need to make sure that we're getting those early completions for Bryce because, again, he's a rhythm thrower. He needs to trust that you are going to be there to catch that ball. He needs to trust that he can throw the ball over a lineman where he can't see a safety, a linebacker, or if anybody is over there. His whole view is clogged. He needs to trust that you're going to be there. And the only person that he trusts is going to be there right now is Tetaroa McMillan. And, of course, Jalen Coker. But, hey, Bryson Tremaine might be wide receiver 3 if Xavier can't earn that same trust from Bryce Young. There's a lot now riding on his shoulders. So let's hear what Dave Canales is talking about with Bryce. And of course, Dave is also going to talk about his confidence in Bryce Young as well. And what's next? Going into our first home game, again, the home opener against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, super high. There's stuff, obviously Bryce would come up here and say he'd like to clean up, from the first 2 games, but I'm fired up about where we're headed, in a game where we had 90 plays, you get a lot of information about the other guys that come in, Bryson Tremaine making a couple of plays, Hunter continuing to get comfortable in there, and certainly T-Mac, because this is 2 games in. So gathering a lot of information about our group as we continue to play was exciting, to be able to just learn that, that again, I say like the games are so valuable and teach us a lot about our guys.
I agree 100% with what Dave Canales is saying. But if you remember, I'm trying to take in all the information was the exact same thing that he did when he talked about trying to bring Bryce Young back from the bench. That's just a little tidbit for you. I don't think it really fits here. But overall, this offensive line has some chances to do better. Obviously, we worked with Cade Mays last year before he went to the Giants and then came back. So here's Dave Canales on the value of a guy like Cade Mays.
Cade was invaluable for us, and he was on the Giants practice squad, and we claimed him back, when Corbs got hurt last year, and he did a great job, settling into the system and really, learning how to communicate with the guys and helping us to function, and he was a big part of that growth. He was in a competition this camp, and he did a great job, and it was close, and Corbs edged him out in the competition of it, but those reps and that time on task is going to pay dividends for us.
So obviously offensive line affected means it affects the quarterback, but you know what it also affects? That running back room that we talked about earlier. Not only did we add Trevor Etienne, who to be honest on special teams, chef's kiss, dude is killing it. But you also go over there and you think about guys like the 1,000-yard rusher that we added in Rico Dowdle, and of course the Carolina Panther through and through in Chuba Hubbard. How is this going to affect them? How is this going to affect their target share? How is this going to affect who's getting the ball? I mean, there's a lot of questions to be answered, but thankfully, that's why you're here. We're getting them answered. Here's Dave Canales on the running back room.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I would love to just, get into the normal flow of our games to be able to see how that rhythm plays out, but I'm glad they're both here. And certainly Chuba's our guy. We want to start it that way, but Rico is very talented, in the run game and the pass game. So, we'll see how that plays out.
Now, obviously, I hope that Chuba goes for 1,000, and you know what? Rico too. Hashtag keep pounding. But you know what? There's some other guys on this team. Let's first talk about Jimmy Horn Jr. Where the heck is he? To be honest, special teams, I thought that's where he would be. He's certainly getting reps there, but Etienne's the actual receiver on that. So what are we doing? Where is he? And God, come on, dude. Get him involved. Because after this, we're going to also have to talk about Xavier Legette, and that's going to take a minute.
Yeah, we're evaluating Jimmy every week, and he's got to just continue to grow and wait for his opportunity, and it's a full team thing, is where does he fit, how does he fit, and that's the part that, Dan and I and the coaching staff are, talking about weekly.
Okay, you know what, Dave? That happens to be fair, because we've seen the explosion of 2 undrafted free agents for this Carolina Panthers team. It's hard for a guy like Jimmy Horn Jr. to break in there, especially at his size. We're seeing the wide receivers that are working in Carolina. Tetaroa, big, huge wide receiver. Adam Thielen, big, huge wide receiver. Bryson Tremaine, big, huge wide receiver. You know what? Jatavian Sanders, throw him in there as a tight end. Mitchell Evans, those are the guys we need. And to be honest, a guy like Xavier Legette needs to be able to get on his horse and go. But I guess he's dealing with some sort of injury now. So now we've got that added onto the plate of everything going on here in Carolina. I don't know what's next, but let's at least get the injury update, and then we'll go into how Xavier Legette is going to function in this offense, Dave's confidence in him, and so much more.
It was today the soreness kind of just popped up, and we're talking about 90 plays, which he was in for about 65 or 70. I don't remember the exact number, but he got a high volume. There was a lot of guys who had a high volume today that, we had to kind of be smart with and manage some different guys. But, challenged them after practice today. I said, okay, tomorrow we're putting the pads on and we go, So the guys are, responded well to that, and that challenge for the group. As a precaution, he just had some hamstring soreness. He started off the practice and he got through, the individual part of it. And then we just thought it was smart to just kind of shut him down for the day. We'll reevaluate him and see where we're at tomorrow.
So obviously injuries happen all the time in the NFL, but this one is interesting, especially given where the fan base is sitting with Xavier Legette. Myself and every other Panthers fan literally goes out of their way to call him Anthony based on everything, because that's his first name. His name is Anthony Xavier Legette. And we're like, man, we don't have Xavier right now, man. We got Anthony on this team. I need you to change it up. I need you to do better. But at the same time, again, we're working with a quarterback that uses rhythm, that uses confidence, that uses all of those other options. So how is Dave using that and translating it to a guy like Xavier, a guy who needs the ball to produce, to beat the criticism and everything like that? He's dependent on Bryce Young. So let's hear Dave Canales on his confidence in Xavier and exactly what he thinks Xavier needs to do moving forwards.
Yeah, just be the same guy. It's about the work. I truly believe that hard work pays off. And I've seen that happen for players who just continue to battle. You just continue to improve. You attack every day with focus. You attack every day with hard work. He's doing all the right things. And, we got his back. We're all encouraging him to just keep pushing forward, keep evaluating yourself on film, take the coaching points of it, and at the end of the day, have fun. Just go win. Go win like you know how to win. And I truly believe that's what he's going to be. Keep working through it. Keep taking the coaching, and the opportunities will find you. And it's not all on X. This is me too. I have to make sure I do a great job of putting him in positions to do the things that he's shown us he can do well in the past. So, I take it personal as well. And that's something that I'm committed to making sure that happens. And, Rob Moore is right next to him. He's in his ear and just continuing to coach him and talk to him. And that's the thing too, is for all the guys, remember who you are. Remember what you've been at your best, and you'll do that again. And that's this type of self-talk that you have to have and believe that if I continue to work, I'll do that again.
Obviously, Xavier still has a great opportunity in front of him with the little injury that he's currently dealing with. I just hope that this is something nice and easy and he could return to form ASAP, hopefully this week. But there's also a crazy fan theory out there that maybe Bryson Tremaine is already better than Xavier Leggett.
I think it's just the ops, I think it's just opportunities in the red zone, and we're designing stuff for X, and we're designing stuff for T-Mac, for JT, and some of those are kind of our primary guys, that we're trying to feature down there, and just the way that it played out, and it's our job as coaches to continue to put Xavier in the best position possible on the things he does really well. And we'll keep evaluating that, and that will help this too. I can't wait to just be able to get him catching the ball and running big and fast, and to be able to just get that first play in and just feel comfortable and just let it rip.
And let it rip is exactly what I want him to do. Do you guys not remember that game last year? I mean, an absolute barn burner. Here are some of the stats from that game. I mean, that was truly Bryce Young's magnum opus game. Week 18 against the Falcons. It is one to go down in the history books, and of course, it came out as a Carolina Panther win. Let's hear his thoughts on that game before we hop into the Falcons in this year, because he has some interesting thoughts on guys like Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I think it's the speed of play. It was groups that were playing really comfortably together on both sides. There was chemistry there. There was just this simple me to you factor. I've been playing with these guys for a while. I know where they're going to be when they're going to be there, and that's what emerged. And then two quarterbacks making really smart decisions with the ball, and finding their opportunities to try to hit the explosive plays, and also just trying to extend drives, whether that's with a short completion, a scramble play, all those things. There's more than one way to win the game, and that's what it felt like to me from both guys.
Yeah, of course. That game, again, lit. If you need to go back and watch it, make sure you do. And if you haven't seen it, you're absolutely missing out. But now we talk about the 2025 Atlanta Falcons. They were my NFC South preseason pick to win the division.
Boo! That sucked.
I know. As a Carolina Panthers fan, that must hurt you as much as it hurts me. But if I'm going to be honest with you, the team just looks ready to go. Not just that, but the Bucs are also dealing with their own set of issues. Chris Godwin, their safety valve, wide receiver, the guy that you could always depend on for all those short yardage gains, he's gone. They were betting that Emeka Egbuka would be able to do something, and you know what? He honestly can. But Mike Evans does show signs of regression. We saw injuries to guys like Baker Mayfield, and to be honest, they've had three offensive linemen out for significant time. So the Atlanta Falcons have the opportunity, again, with guys like Bijan Robinson, in my opinion, running back number one in the league. Dude is elusive. He's now finally starting to really explode in the receiving game. Michael Penix is actually finding him deep. This team looks ready. Now, don't get me wrong, that Vikings game, the Falcons did not look the best, and neither did Michael Penix, walking out with no touchdowns, no picks. But sometimes you just need to win the game. Sometimes you just need to play the guys that are in front of you. It's the thing hurting Jalen Hurts stock right now. Yes, you exit a game sometimes with 100 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks. But you know what? If you're winning all your games, it doesn't matter. The ring is what matters at the end of the day. Now, obviously, I don't think Atlanta can truly compete for a Super Bowl. And you know what? If I end up eating my words on that, oh well. I do think that there are better teams out there, and I don't think Atlanta has a chance to actually compete to win a Super Bowl. But you know what? They do have guys like Bijan. And this is Dave Canales speaking about how dynamic Bijan Robinson is, for example.
Yeah, he's just a really balanced player. He's explosive in the run game and the pass game. He's got great vision, power, quickness, speed, all the things that you want, and also just his gamesmanship. He's a competitor, and you can see him fighting. You can see him trying to find a way to affect the game and help his team.
Not only is Bijan Robinson dynamic for the Atlanta offense, but to be honest, he needs to be schemed against. We're going to have to send everybody after him at times, which is going to hurt us. It's going to open guys up like Kyle Pitts. Is there a possibility where a guy like Kyle Pitts has a 100+ receiving game? Yeah, absolutely. Especially because the linebacker room in Carolina is so depleted. So where does this put us? I genuinely don't know. The scheme needs to change. We need to adjust to guys like Bijan. Drake has a little bit of an issue with the shoulder, so that might help us out in the deep game. Might shrink the field down, but I mean, this is Dave's thoughts on the defensive outlook and the defensive look that we're going to give Atlanta this Sunday at 1 p.m.
Play together, team tackle. We got to rally to the ball. You know, when you have a fantastic player like this, it takes multiple people to make sure they're doing their assignment and everybody rallying to the ball, everybody being there and trying to limit the amount of space that he gets. The more space he has, the more dangerous he can be. So it's got to be team football.
And finally, let's wrap this press conference breakdown of Dave Canales ahead of the home opener against the Falcons, with him talking about how the Falcons have done in the offseason moving into this year and how they're a different team than the team that we saw in 2024. So as much as I want a barn burner, they do have a pass rush now. And with hurt offensive linemen, guys like Jalen Walker, which again, I used to call him Jalon, Jalen Walker apparently, and of course James Pierce Jr., two local kids, ended up on the Falcons instead of the Carolina Panthers. So you know that means that they're coming after us and they're going to want to make an example of not being picked by the hometown team.
They did a great job this offseason helping themselves with some young players and some veteran players, you know, up along the front in particular, you know, with Jalen Walker, with James Pierce, you know, having Leonard Floyd and Ebiketie, who was, you know, a solid player last year as well. They did an awesome job retooling there. Xavier Watts is another guy that we really liked in the process. And Billy Bowman, who was really productive in college, you know, is showing that he still has great hands and he can make plays when he gets opportunities. So, and I'm just talking about the newcomers, you know, obviously Bates is still there and, you know, we'll see on Terrell. But this is a really good group. And I think the thing I admired about them last year, which is the same this year, is how hard they play and how they play together. I admire that. I admire teams when they fly around and they team tackle, you know, and they're communicating and doing all those things. So that gives them, you know, a chance to be, you know, really successful on defense.
Okay, and with that, I'm tired of any Atlanta praise. We're Carolina Panthers fans, and you know what? Fuck Steve Smith. There are no such thing as Carolina Panthers fans that are fair weather fans. If you're in this fan base, you're in it to win it. You're in it for the long haul. And to be honest, this team is still rebuilding. I know that's not what you want to hear, but this is going to be one of the toughest years as Carolina Panthers fans, especially if this game doesn't end up as a W for the Carolina Panthers. Then we're traveling to the New England Patriots. Then, of course, we're playing the Miami Dolphins. Another shot at getting that first win. But if we come out of those 5 games down 5, we might not win a game this year. And that, my friends, that, my viewers, the 5 or 6 of you out there, appreciate you. But there is so much that can happen. Does Bryce get benched again? Does Dave Canales survive? At this point, I think Ejiro Evero is destined to be fired from Carolina. So what happens to this team just by the trade deadline, let alone week 18? I'm not sure, but I want to know your thoughts. Make sure you put them in the comments, and make sure you come check out my videos on the regular. We're breaking down Dave Canales, Brad Idzik, Ejiro Evero, Tracy Smith, Arthur Smith, OCs, DCs, it doesn't matter. We're breaking it down here. I cannot wait to see you in a future breakdown. Peace. I really appreciate you making it this far. It helps out the channel, and I cannot thank you enough. Hopefully one of these other videos are ones that you like as well, but if not, I can't wait to catch you in the next one. My name is Nick, and this has been Roll Coverage.